From the crossroads of the Ozarks, it's the OGs of podcasting, PID Radio. Welcome, I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert, and we're coming to you again from our living room because it's just handier all around. And we've got a couple of dogs that are in the room with us, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
This could be interesting.
Very interesting, but also the sounds of the birds singing in through the windows is kind of nice. It's a beautiful day here in the Ozarks, and a little gray overhead, but green as can be.
Oh, it is so green.
Yeah.
Birds are everywhere. The hummingbirds are back.
Yeah.
We've got, as of right now, maybe 8 of them that I could count. They're out fighting and dating.
Yes. Yeah, dating, yes. It is coming together time here in the Ozarks.
I'm going to put them in a crate. Come on, let's go
by
in
the
the crate.
time summer gets around, we will see probably 5 or 6 times that many out there at the feeders.
You can hear them running into their crate.
Yes, they've
Good
been
girls.
trained well by Miss Eileen at Pet Cuts in Crane. She has got them crate trained, and we truly appreciate that. Well, before the end of the program, we'll give you an update on my health issues. Had some medical testing done last week. Of course, last weekend being Resurrection Sunday, and that weekend we took the weekend off. But I was also kind of lying low as I was recuperating from what's called a lumbar puncture, more commonly known as a spinal tap. So we'll tell you more about that later. Also talked more about our Israel tour with our special guest, Carl Teichrieb. That will be coming up before the end of the program. But much to discuss this weekend.
Had to take Glory something to chew on.
Yes. Are we looking at Peter the Roman? Petrus Romanus, and the globalists are in all kinds of disarray. Oh, is there anything President Trump can't do? We say that tongue-in-cheek, of course.
Well, we do. It's been such an interesting week. So many things have happened. On the very same day, I think, that Pope Francis died, or the announcement was it.
Yeah, that was Monday.
Yeah, the day after J.D. Vance was there. And, of course, there was much made of that on X.
Yeah.
If you don't hang out on X, I got to tell you, it's a wonderful free speech zone, and you see some hilarity there, some conspiracy theories there that wouldn't be allowed on Facebook, but it's interesting to read them. No, I don't think he had anything to do with the Pope's passing. The Pope had been sick a long time.
Yeah, he'd been dealing with chronic bronchial infections, and he had just gotten back from a 4-week stint in the hospital dealing with double pneumonia. So,
and he nearly died several times.
Right. I mean, he was 88 years old. He was in frail health. But it did give the Babylon Bee some amusing fodder for a story where the headline was, Dalai Lama quietly cancels upcoming meeting with J.D. Vance.
So hang out on X. You'll find both Derek and me over there. And whether you follow us or not, it's an interesting space. So if you don't have an account over there, set one up. It's worth the time. Yeah,
and links to our X accounts, as well as our new Telegram accounts and our Substack account, where we're releasing free excerpts from our books. Those are all in the show notes below wherever you're listening or watching. And if you're watching, just you'll notice the picture never changes. But if you're subscribed at YouTube Music, that's there is an image.
Thank you for that. Yeah. And we do that. You're releasing those free chapters from our books because Tom Horn did that. He wanted people to have as much access to the books. If you can't afford it, fine. He gave away about 3/4 of the book. Right.
And that's what we've been doing. We've already gone through The Great Inception and Bad Moon Rising and my sections from Destination Earth, and now working through the Second Coming of Saturn. Pretty soon, we've still got Veneration and Giants, Gods, and Dragons, and then the Gates of Hell to go through.
Lots of. I don't want to go through those gates.
No.
We also. Derek and I, we both write fiction, and all of our fiction goes through our imprint called Rose Avenue Fiction. All of that is on Kindle Unlimited. If you subscribe to Kindle Unlimited, you can read those books for free. Right. We try our best to make this stuff accessible, and eventually we'll start teasing out chapters from those as well on the Substack. So, exactly. So follow that, and you'll see a subscribe button there and a donate button. If you feel like donating,
Right.
that would be great. But if you don't, look, the Lord has inspired us. The Lord takes good care of us.
Yep.
We're able to pay the bills, and that's all that matters. So please, and thank you to those who do, because that's why we can pay the bills.
Well, yeah, frankly, I mean, and there's nothing at the Substack account that's behind a paywall.
No,
so if you go
it's
to
all free.
Subscribe to our Substack account, you're not going to be, if it's a free account you set up, that's fine.
Exactly.
You're going to get all the information, but if you choose to donate, that's great too. We truly appreciate it, and frankly, I've been surprised. It's like, well,
At the number
wow,
of people who
okay.
just kindly donate.
God bless you and thank you, because it is your generosity that provides for us. The Lord working through you to provide and help us to do what we're doing.
And we just want to let you know that we may not respond to every donation, but we pray over everyone who donates. So if you have a specific need when you donate, you can put that in a note, especially over PayPal. I'm not sure how the others go, but you can also let us know on Facebook through Messenger or something like that if
Right.
you need prayer. The Armored Sheep podcast has its own Telegram channel, and also now its own Facebook page.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm trying to do that every week, but depending upon what's going on that week, sometimes I'm not able to do that. But getting back to our fiction,
Yeah.
if you are someone who enjoys reading the Red Wing saga, I have not been able to write because of my eye condition, which makes my corneas really blurry, and it's just difficult to see. I mean, I laugh sometimes when I am just trying to write a very simple sentence to post on, say, Facebook or X. I have to go through it multiple times with my reading glasses held at various angles, trying to make sure that I've not misspelled or misspoken. So it's a difficult task, but my eyes are getting much better. And a week from yesterday, on May the 2nd, I am going to be refracted at my eye doctor's office. And if he is able to successfully perform that, if my corneas are doing well enough that day, then we will schedule the cataract surgeries. And after that, my eyes should be better than they were before all this started.
Well, if we can afford the upgrade, we should really look into getting you the, so you can see like X-rays and ultraviolet and infrared.
And maybe, like something that allows me to contact
See sound waves, shoot
Yes.
lasers from your eyes. That'd be really great.
And if I could get the internet on them, that would be good. No, seriously. I just wanted to be able to see. So I should be able, in fact, Derek was kind enough to get me a MacBook Air as a gift, because I also have arthritis in my hands and my wrists are a little bit weak compared to how they used to be. So lifting my
there with
heavy
you.
MacBook Pro
Yep.
was a challenge. We gave that to Vicki Joy Anderson, who I gotta tell you is going to make good use of that machine. And I've got a really light MacBook Air now, so I have the ability to pick it up easily, and I can see sort of. So I'm starting in on writing. It's my prayer that Book 9 of the Red Wing Saga will be out this fall. Late summer, in the fall sometime. So
well, we're on target then for a couple of books. I'm working on War of the Watchers. War of the Watchers.
War of the Watchers.
War of the Watchers. And that is underway, and I
Trademark.
promised to get that turned in by late September. Of course, that would mean it probably wouldn't be out until around January 1st. But anyway, that's the goal.
It's a good goal, and you've been working on it really hard. So now to the news.
Yeah.
Other than the Pope passing away.
Well, that
happened at the same time as Klaus Schwab.
Oh, right.
That's where I started earlier, and then I got totally distracted, which is common anymore.
Well, I was going to talk a little bit more about the conclave, upcoming conclave.
Well,
and all
let's
that
do it, and
stuff.
then we'll get to Klaus Schwab.
Yeah, because between them and the World Health Organization, we've got the globalists of various
And
flavors.
Moderna.
Yeah, plenty to discuss. there are a number of candidates who are considered leaders for the position of replacing the Pope. And what is interesting is that the leading candidate, who is the Secretary of State for the Vatican, which is the highest, really the most powerful position inside the Vatican.
Well,
other
exactly,
than the Pope.
because Cardinal Ratzinger was Secretary of State and he became Pope Benedict.
Yeah, yeah. Here we go. Vatican Secretary of State is Cardinal Pietro Parolin.
His name's Peter.
Yeah, and
he's Italian.
And he's Italian. That's interesting for a couple of reasons. Number one, he would be one of the leading candidates, the Secretary of State, again, having access to all the levers of power inside the Vatican. The fact that he's named Peter, we look at the book by Tom Horn and Chris Putnam, Petrus Romanus, Peter the Roman, the final Roman Pope in the Prophecy of the Popes by St. Malachi from, 800 years ago?
Yeah, I think it's pronounced Malachy.
Malachy? Well, I know it was Malachy Martin, but it could be...
I think it's just because I think that's how the Irish pronounce it.
Okay. Well, we will defer...
I could be wrong on that. And if you are an Irish listener, please forgive me if I mispronounce that.
Yes, St. Malachy, Archbishop of Armagh in... I probably mispronounced that too.
Well, I don't know. It might be Armagh. I don't know.
Armagh.
Again,
Armagh. About 900 years ago, he died in the year 1148. But he had a vision of, alleged vision, we have to say, of 112 popes. This later, that vision later claimed to be apocryphal, that it was attributed to him, but it was made up later. But the final Roman Pope was supposed to be a character called Peter the Roman, whose pontificate will coincide with the destruction of the city of Rome. So Roman Catholic Church has never taken an official stance on this, but this is something that Tom and Cris looked at, and of course that coincided with Tom's prediction of the resignation of Pope Benedict a year before Benedict resigned.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Isn't
turned
that
out,
interesting?
Right. And when the timing of Benedict's resignation came and went without his resignation, people thought, okay, another one of those false prophets. And to be clear, Tom never called himself a prophet. Mm-mm. He rejected that label completely. But it turned out that Benedict had resigned in private to the inner circle inside the Vatican, and then they took another month to kind of line up all their ducks before they made it official and made it public.
Yeah, they took many months.
Tom was right. He nailed it. Or rather, it was revealed to Tom.
It was revealed to him.
Yeah.
For the Lord's purposes.
So we have been asked by people, what do we think of the prophecy of the popes? I think our position is that nothing that's outside the Bible is a legitimate prophecy.
Exactly. I do agree with that. I also will tell you that there are times when the Holy Spirit reveals something for the Lord's reasons, and other times when the Lord allows other spirits to reveal things for their reasons. And I'm talking about the prophecy of the popes, not Tom Horn. I believe Tom Horn came from the Lord.
Yeah.
But the prophecy of the popes, in fact, you get a lot of this information in Petrus Romanus. Tom Horn and Chris Putnam cover a lot of the history of the revelations. And there are some who say that because it was written pseudepigraphically, that it wasn't Malachy, that it was someone else who used his name.
In the 16th century.
Exactly. So what about the ones that came after that?
Yeah.
And is it possible that the ones that came after, that the selections were made trying to fit the predictions?
Possible. Yeah, possible. Historians, several historians that have looked into this have concluded it was in the late 16th century. Malachy had a biographer, Saint Bernard, Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, who was a contemporary of Malachy's. So he lived at the same time. He made no mention at all of the prophecy of the popes. I mean, this is a big enough deal that you'd think they would have mentioned it.
It would have been central to it.
First mention of this dates to 1587, so it's likely that this was not written by Malachy. It was credited to him pseudepigraphically, just, like the apocalypse of Pseudo-Methodius. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But as you say, what about the ones after that? Did they try to fit it? The other question would be, why would the spirit realm inspire this creation in the first place?
Well, may I raise my hand?
Yes, Mrs. G.
Going along with that, another question is, why would the spirit realm pretend to be a vision of Mary and give 3 prophecies, 3 secrets to children in Fatima, Portugal?
Really good question. Or the ongoing visions at Medjugorje.
Derek and I do not believe in veneration of Mary.
No.
She was a sinner who was saved by her son's sacrifice.
Yep.
Yes, she bore our Lord, but it did not make her any more special than anyone else.
Nope.
And I think Mary would be the first one to tell you that.
Yes, her title, Queen of Heaven.
Exactly.
Taken directly from the veneration in the Old Testament period of Astarte, who was Ishtar, who was Inanna.
Yes, so this is a fallen entity, probably a fallen watcher class angel who was sent here post-Babel. That watcher pretends to be female because they can take on male or female appearance, or both.
Right.
And this entity, you and I believe, appeared. I think the children genuinely saw something.
Oh, sure, yeah.
They were terrified. And then those who came later saw what is the miracle of the sun, where the sun appeared to dance in the sky. And that is often quoted by chariots of the gods sort of people as a UFO.
Right, right.
Therefore, Mary, quote unquote, was actually an alien and communicating with the children. The third secret of Fatima has been revealed in various ways and at various times. Allegedly, it had to do with redeeming Russia for the Lord. Pope John Paul II was very involved in that, and he was a big believer. He claimed, and his followers claimed, that it was not that it was, showed the Bishop of Rome, another name for the Pope, involved in either a near-death event or an attempted event or something like that. And he claimed that that was fulfilled when he was shot. And he claimed that the mother of Jesus, that Mary, saved him. Then there is the other one that some of you, I'm sure, are thinking about, and it shows the Bishop of Rome walking up a hill over corpses, past corpses, to reach the top where a cross stands. And once he gets up there, he too dies. That is said to be the real secret of third secret of Fatima.
Right.
But I've actually read that there's yet another one that's not been revealed.
Well, I'm sure that will ultimately be revealed in time, whether it's in this life or in the next, when we're able to access the archives in heaven.
But I think that secret that I just described to you is sometimes used as why Peter the Roman not only is the last in the prophecy, but also will be the last, because there will be division either amongst the church or an attack from the outside, a literal attack.
Yeah, and this would be, there are a lot of ways that could happen, and given the influx of migrants, Muslim migrants, into Europe over the past 10 years especially, ever since the Syrian civil war began in 2011, but that has been ongoing for quite a while. Europe has been a target of Islam since the 7th century. I mean, they crossed the Straits of Gibraltar, and in the 8th century were halfway across France when they were finally stopped by Charles Martel at the Battle of Tours in 732 AD. But even as late as the 17th century, I mean, was it 1683 when they were at the gates of Vienna and they were saved by the King of Poland, Jan Sobieski?
Yes.
If King Jan Sobieski had not defeated the Ottomans, then
It would have been done.
it would have been done, yeah. The German states to the north were fractured and squabbling with each other, and because they were Protestant, they weren't inclined to help the Catholics anyway, which is why Jan Sobieski had to come. The Germans weren't coming.
Well, and the
And to the south, Italy would have been wide open for the taking.
oh, absolutely, but also the ruler of Vienna, of Austria,
Yeah.
had left.
The Habsburgs, yeah, they
He'd
fled.
absolutely given up.
Right, but
And that's why Jan Sobieski went into Vienna, and he was tempted to actually take the town for himself.
yeah, he decided he didn't want the hassle. From what I've read about Sobieski and his character later, ruling was not really, it was like, he did what he had to do, but I think he enjoyed, he was sort of like Robert Baratheon in Game of Thrones. He enjoyed battle more than he enjoyed actually
He
sitting on a
was
throne.
built like Baratheon,
Yes,
too.
exactly.
Sizable man.
Sizable game, yeah. So anyway, as the author Raymond Ibrahim, historian of Islam, has pointed out in his books, Defenders of the West and Sword and Scimitar, the Reformation, led by Martin Luther, came at the worst possible time for Europe because it divided Europe into Protestant and Roman Catholic, and both sides, saw the enemy of my enemy as my friend. So let's make nice with the Turks and hope to go after the other guys. And of course, the Turks did attack Europe. They did it in the 16th century and again in the 17th century. But Europe would have been able to mount a better defense had they not been fighting with each other and fighting over religion. And without recognizing that the religion that was the real threat is Islam. I've got the same complaint today, by the way, about the so-called woke right, those who are declaring Christ as king and then blaming the world's 14 million Jews for all of the world's evil.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you got 1.6 billion Muslims. If even 1% of them believe in waging jihad the way Muhammad did, that's still more than all of the Jews on planet Earth.
Right.
I mean, you're shooting at the wrong target.
With
But
that in
anyway.
mind, you are working on, you've already filmed it, a documentary regarding the secret war against the Jews.
Yeah.
And I think that's an extremely important film to come out. You also have given some presentations on it. And
Yeah.
I for the life of me, I do not understand the whole, the temptation, and it is a temptation,
Yeah.
to blame Judaism for almost everything.
Yeah. We could do like
I know, we could
a
do
long program
hours
on
and
that.
hours on
I'll
that,
put a
but-
link because there is a video that was recorded at last year's little gathering up in North Dakota that I spoke at, where I did that, and it was recorded by Wyatt Furno up there.
Oh,
of
good.
The Pitchfork and Hoe gathering. So if you're interested in seeing, it's almost a 2-hour presentation, including the Q&A session afterwards, where I talk about how Israel became a nation,
Right.
and why it is the fulfillment. Yes, it is the fulfillment of prophecies,
Amen.
like Ezekiel 36, Isaiah, Zechariah, the prophecies of Israel's return to the land, but how it happened in a very unexpected way.
Yep.
And also, just because it didn't happen the way we might have scripted it doesn't mean, I mean, we serve a God who once called Nebuchadnezzar my servant, Nebuchadnezzar who destroyed the temple, and
Because he used him
Yeah.
to
accomplish his ends.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So anyway, I'll put a link to that video in the notes.
So getting back to Pope Francis's passing, and today, by the way, is the funeral, and world
Yes.
leaders from all over are
Right.
attending that.
President Trump is there with Melania. Melania, a Roman Catholic, so obviously this is important to her.
And I don't know if Modi attended or not. He may not, considering what's going on in India, but I know that his X account, his social media accounts have expressed condolences at the passing, because there are a lot of Catholics, believe it or not, who live in India.
Yeah. In fact, we have a friend who we won't name because there are a lot of...
Right. Who is Christian.
He is Christian, and that's why we won't name him, because there are some...
Right.
Can be some pushback in that society.
And many of
by
you
Hindus.
listening, you may either have friends who live in India or you live in India. And if you do, then we want to express our condolences to all of those who lost family members, friends, acquaintances, colleagues in the attack by Muslims
Yes.
on Hindus. And one of that 26 who died, or was it 27?
It was 26.
Was a Christian.
Yeah.
But
This
most
took,
of them were Hindu.
right. This took place on Tuesday at a village in Kashmir. Now, Kashmir is that disputed area between India and Pakistan.
Yeah, there's a long history
Right.
on that. We could spend hours discussing the history of how Pakistan was formed out of India.
Yeah, and again, you look at the 1400-year history of Islam, and if you're just looking at the most recent slice of history, you might assume that Islam's anger is directed mainly at Jews. It is not. It is 1400 years of violence against anyone who's not Muslim.
Right.
That includes Hindus, Buddhists, Jews, Jains, Zoroastrians, animists, and Christians. Just because there are more Christians on earth than anybody else, at least for the next 50 years, according to polls, at which point Muslims will outnumber Christians. We Christians have been a target. And again, this is perhaps circling back to the destruction of Rome, what could conceivably lead to something like that vision of the final Pope, of the final Bishop of Rome climbing that hill of bodies. But I think that Europe, at least parts of Europe, I think Maloney in Italy has at least said some things that suggest that she understands that unrestricted immigration is not necessarily good for European society, Italian
Yeah. Giorgia
society.
Maloney has been very good for Italy. Who is it that is still in prison in France? Le Pen.
Marine Le Pen.
Marine Le Pen.
Yep, Le Pen in France, of course, Viktor Orban in Hungary.
He actually did get elected, but
Yes.
Le Pen would be elected, except that Macron put her in jail.
That's true. And the most recent poll in Germany shows that the AfD party, the Alternative for Deutschland, Alternative for Germany, which is the conservative party there, the anti-immigration party there, is now leading in the polls. But the other parties are conspiring just as they did in France against Le Pen and her National Front to basically make the AfD illegal. You
Do
see
you
the
get the
same.
feeling that spiritually speaking, the world is like a Rubik's Cube right now, and
Yeah.
lots of spinning is taking place in the spirit realm?
Right. Or what was in the that horror film with the box,
Oculus or
the
whatever?
Oculus
Yeah.
or the Loculus or whatever they call it. Yeah. Well, yeah, a lot going on in the world, and a lot of it has to do with these sorts of nationalist parties that are starting to rise because people realize, hey, our elected officials have been working against our interests for a long, long time.
How are we doing on time?
Well, we need to take a break, but when we come back, we can talk about Trump and some of the things going on
Economically.
here and how he's affecting the World Economic Forum,
Exactly.
the World Health
And
Organization.
remind me, we'll also get to Moderna.
Oh, and Moderna. Yes, that's an important story. More to come straight ahead. PID Radio continues.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you can support the ministry of Skywatch TV and our continued efforts to share the gospel of Jesus Christ throughout the four corners of the world and receive your very own copy of this incredible masterpiece when you order the Gates of Hell Ultimate Collection. Not only does this incredible special offer include Derek and Sharon Gilbert's new book, The Gates of Hell, Unlocking the Ganymede Code and the Demonic Portals of Mount Hermon and the United States Capitol, but it also includes the best-selling books Veneration, Unveiling the Ancient Realms of Demonic Kings and Satan's Battle Plan for Armageddon, and The Second Coming of Saturn, The Great Conjunction, America's Temple, and the Return of the Watchers by Derek and Sharon Gilbert. Veneration uncovers how the ancient giants known as the Raphaim influenced biblical beliefs, leading to the corruption of God's people and their eventual return to fight at Armageddon alongside the Antichrist. The Second Coming of Saturn reveals a dark prophecy with the 2020 conjunction marking the return of the ancient god whose reign will bring a hellish golden age as foretold in occult symbols and Bible prophecy. Sold separately, these items hold a retail value of over $60. Yours now for your donation of only $40, which includes free shipping to all U.S. orders. So don't delay. You can support the ministry of Skywatch TV and help us continue spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ right now by scanning the QR code on your screen using the camera app on your phone for instant access to this special opportunity. Visit us at skywatchtvstore.com or call 1-844-750-4985 and ask for the Gates of Hell Ultimate Collection now.
Welcome back to PID Radio. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I am Sharon Gilbert, and I'm going to say something that's going to shock our listeners. Yes.
Oh, wait, I'm supposed to do that after.
Derek and I are not drinking coffee. We're sitting here drinking tea.
Yeah.
It's because, and we'll say more about that later, but we're discovering that there are certain types of teas that are very healthy to drink and healthier than drinking coffee, even though coffee's got its place. But you know, if you love to drink tea and you love to drink coffee, you're our kind of people. You're our kind of people. And we want you to join us, segue here, on
clever.
October's trip to Israel.
They make great coffee over there.
They do. They have iced coffee that I guarantee we'll have.
Yes, iced coffee. There are vendors over there. It's like, I have the best iced coffee in Israel. Mm-hmm. And every one of them has been correct.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
We will be there October 19th through 30th. And our special guest, Carl Teichrieb, author of Game of Gods, will be joining us. We are going to see some sites we have not seen on previous tours. You know, we will be going back to places, of course, all the important places you want to see, like the Temple Mount, the Old City of Jerusalem, the Mount of Olives. We'll show you on the Mount of Olives the historical locations of the crucifixion and the burial tomb of Jesus.
We will also visit Shiloh.
Yes.
And we will get to see the red heifers.
Yes, those are, that is on the tour for sure. But we will also show you the Valley of the Shadow of Death. This is a real place, and we will look at it from the center of the dolmen building culture of the ancient world. We'll show you that, the big daddy of dolmens, 50-ton capstone, the dolmens being those big megalithic funerary monuments for the cult of the dead. And we'll also show you what we believe to be the historical location of Jesus' baptism.
Oh, yes, it's beautiful, actually.
It's not where anybody else thinks it is.
Jordan is really pretty right there. I'm laughing because I was thinking about the Shamir Dolmen that you were just describing. And when we went there with Doug Van Dorn, and we thought we had found it. So we're looking at this one, and then I'm in there taking, video and this and that, and you're standing there, and then Doug says, "Oh, hold on, come here." We followed him around a little tree or something.
Yeah.
And,
that's
this one's
the big
twice the size of the one we were in.
That's the big one.
It's big.
So, yes, that one is definitely worth seeing. And again, from there you see the valley through which the Jordan River runs between Mount Hermon and the Sea of Galilee, that being the Valley of the Shadow of Death. We'll also go to Gilgal Rephaim, the Israeli Stonehenge.
Yes.
And explain why that's relevant and important as well. Much, much more. You can get a look at the itinerary and reserve your place for the tour at gilberthouse.org/travel. That's gilberthouse.org/travel.
While you're at our website, gilberthouse.org, go to the shop, or sorry, /store. And no, we're no longer shipping physical products from our store, but we do link to a lot of great deals. And one of those is Light Hive Creations. Kenny C. and his fiancee, Gidget Manning, produced these T-shirts, caps, mugs. We have Gilbert House TV, GHTV products there. We also have Red Wing Saga products there, Armored Sheep products there.
Yep.
Skywatch TV has products there. She also has all sorts of other things that are not linked to a particular ministry. They're just great T-shirts. I mean, the stuff she comes up with are really creative. So go to that and support them, because they help to buy instruments for kids who want to learn how to play music but can't afford the instruments.
Right. So we're happy to support them that way. And when you go to gilberthouse.org/store, I'm finally going to do this today because the time has come.
The time is now.
Yes. Skywatch TV is airing the programs this week and next week about our book, The Gates of Hell. And so they've got a special offer on The Gates of Hell, including our book Veneration and my book, The Second Coming of Saturn, all three books for $40.
Yeah,
That's a $60 value, but it's for $40.
I think if you watch the actual programs that we recorded, that below it says 45, it's actually 40.
Yeah, whoever created the lower third
They'll probably fix it.
Made an error. They'll probably fix it. But Joe says 40 in the promo.
He does.
But it's $40, and in the U.S. it's free shipping as well.
I know.
Yeah.
What a deal is that? Because the books themselves are, the book that, I think Gates of Hell is $21.95 or something like that.
Yeah, correct. So it's altogether it's like a $62 value.
Yeah.
But you can get it for $40 and free shipping.
Plus the shipping if you paid the, so yeah, this is a deal.
Right.
Especially if you live in the U.S. Get this deal. Get a couple of them.
So when you go to our store, we're going to add a section called specials and special offers, because I know the Skywatch TV store also has special offers on our older books. So we're going to put all of those at our store, so you can go to gilberthouse.org/store if you're interested in the nonfiction or the fiction. I'll have to check to see if they still got some Red Wing Saga books there.
They might, but I'll tell you, we want to support Skywatch TV Store because they have massive deals that Derek and I, on our own, we just couldn't give you.
Right.
But you can get them there, so we're going to link to those.
Exactly. And at the end of the year, we it supports what we do as well. So, but we believe in the ministry at Skywatch TV and the mission there at Whispering Ponies Ranch, which, by the way, the problem last year with the insurance for the ranch has been resolved.
Yes, thank you,
the ranch,
Jesus.
amen, because that was an answer to prayer. The ranch will be open again this year, and so the camps will begin soon. And so anything we can do to help support the work over there, because the way Tom Horn and Nita Horn set it up was for Skywatch TV to finance the work at the ranch, so that ministries like, it used to be Royal Family Kids, now it's For the Kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the work that they're doing with children in foster care, they don't pay a dime to bring the kids to the camp.
Right.
And
Most of the camps have to charge.
Exactly. I mean, they're not cheap to operate, especially when you're talking about insurance.
No, I remember hearing, well, even without the insurance, I think it was going to be about $1,000 per child per week.
Right.
So you bring 20 kids.
Yep.
But no, nobody pays a dime at Skywatch TV.
And it's because of
at
your
Whispering
support
Ponies.
at Skywatch TV. So we're happy to direct folks over to the store over there.
Now, the World Economic Forum.
World Economic Forum, as you started to say in the first half before I derailed into the Peter the Roman discussion, on the same day of the announcement of the death of Pope Francis, came word that Klaus Schwab, the founder and CEO of the World Economic Forum, he founded it back in 1971 or thereabouts, 71. Yeah, so more than 50 years ago. He was stepping down with immediate effect. I mean,
Well, a couple of months ago, he announced he was going to step down sometime soon.
Yeah.
Well, whenever it was. And then suddenly it was like, okay,
I quit.
He's gone.
Yeah. He was going to stay on until the successor had been chosen. So I'm quitting, but I'm not quitting just yet.
Yeah,
Well,
now you are. Someone kicked him off.
Yeah, it was 1970, 55 years ago. Wall Street Journal reported that Schwab was under investigation by the, or not was, is under investigation by the organization for alleged, we have to say, financial and ethical misconduct. Because Klaus and his wife Hilda were apparently using it as their own personal piggy bank. Surprise, surprise.
Well, let me just say
You will
this.
eat the bugs.
I suspect, based on many of the stories that I have read over my years of scanning the news, it's not the first time that the head of a company has felt that it's okay to use company funds to take travel or take other perks.
This is mine.
Right.
Yeah.
So my question is, why did this person, Klaus Schwab, suddenly become persona non grata?
That's a really good question.
Because if it's not that uncommon, then why suddenly is he asked to step down? I think there's someone else who wanted the job, and the person in the job now is head of Nestle. He's the guy that said you shouldn't get water for free.
Yeah, and he looks like another Bond villain.
Mm-hmm.
He
even had a cat on his lap.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Okay,
it
I
was photoshopped
imagined
in.
it,
Yeah.
but photoshopped it in.
Yeah, he had some sort of medical condition that left the white of his left eye all
I know,
red.
it looks very weird.
So yeah, it does look very strange. But the allegations against Schwab, he was accused of asking junior employees to go to ATMs and take out thousands of dollars for his own personal use. And then, according to the allegation, again, this came into the board of directors via an anonymous letter sent to the board of directors by current and former Forum employees. So multiple whistleblowers who chose not to be named for fear of retribution, apparently.
Right.
For fear of legal action, because Schwab has threatened to sue anybody whose name comes out. He apparently used these Forum funds to pay for private in-room massages at hotels.
Oh.
Massages.
Not sure that's actually a business expense.
No. Hilda would schedule alleged, we have to say, Forum meetings in very swanky vacation resorts. So then she could use funds to go to a vacation spot. Okay, 15-minute meeting. Okay, meeting adjourned, and then go to the pool or whatever. Schwab is accused of treating female employees badly, sexual harassment. That's never a good thing. Also, a luxury property bought by the World Economic Forum overlooking Lake Como in Switzerland.
Beautiful area.
Purchased at about a cost of $30 million, then renovated with an additional $20 million in World Economic Forum funds. And then Hilda has tight control over who actually gets to use the villa. Presumably that would be Hilda.
I see.
So anyway, the board meeting, or the board mentioned to Klaus, we're going to investigate. Schwab said, don't you dare. And so the board called an emergency meeting on Easter Sunday. Okay. Bearing in mind that the board includes the head of BlackRock, Larry Fink, former U.S. Vice President Al Gore, the head of the International Monetary Fund.
Right. Sitting on these boards is very lucrative.
Cellist Yo-Yo Ma.
What?
I know. Why is Yo-Yo Ma? I don't know. Anyway, they called a meeting and they said, okay, we are going to investigate you even harder now. And so Schwab quit. He said, that's it, I'm taking my marbles and going home. Schwab, by the way, told the Wall Street Journal he denies all the allegations, and furthermore, I paid the World Economic Forum back for the massages.
Okay.
As if
All
that
right.
makes it okay.
Okay. Well, getting back to Nestle, if you're sitting there thinking, well, that's the candy bar company. They're way more than that. If you have traveled with us to Jordan, you noticed that you cannot drink the water. There is not a whole lot of water available in Jordan. You can shower with it. You can sort of brush your teeth with it if it's fast.
Yes.
But you have to buy water.
Yes.
And it's all made by Nestle.
You do. Yes, you do not get free water at hotels.
Right.
They just don't have enough in Jordan to go around. And Nestle is a huge supplier of bottled water to the third and fourth world.
Aren't they the manufacturers of Nespresso?
Yes, they are.
You see that in a lot of hotels in Europe and in the Middle East.
Yeah, in Israel, there's a lot of espresso machines.
Yeah, the big machines that you and I wanted to take home.
Yeah.
They're very,
Can't
very
get that
large,
in
but
the
you just
suitcase.
press a button that says cappuccino.
Yeah.
And you get a cappuccino that's really good.
Yeah. So, the interim CEO of the World Economic Forum, now the former CEO of Nestle, and the question is whether the World Economic Forum can even survive this, because once it became known that Klaus Schwab was pushing for the Great Reset, where he wants us to eat bugs, to own nothing by 2030 and be happy. And meanwhile, he's got a $50 million luxury villa overlooking Lake Como. It's like,
Yep.
It's like Bernie Sanders having 2 homes, net worth of $3.5 million, and flying a private jet around to lecture us about the oligarchy.
Well, exactly. Let's not forget that the two-pronged approach to forming the reset New World Order was pandemic and climate change.
Climate change, right. And it turns out both of those were based on faulty information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what new, you and I, you mentioned Trump. He has been negotiating with a lot of other countries.
Well, yeah, but as long as we're on the world issue, about World Health Organization and the World WHO, Dr. Tedros saying we're going to have to cut about a quarter of our staff because the United States isn't paying our bills anymore.
The United States is not paying the bills for a lot of world things right now. Trump is building, as I was going, he's building his own economic system.
Yeah.
He's building an economic bloc of nations that is going to rival BRICS, it's going to rival the EU, and these are zero tariff deals. So we won't charge you, you won't charge us.
Yeah. The corporate media has been framing this as Trump starting a trade war, but the fact is we've been in a trade war, it's just we've not been fighting back for a long time.
Because the mainstream media wasn't going to tell anybody.
No, because again, they're globalists. The globalists have been assuming that because of elite capture, they basically got most of the elites here in the United States on their side, that they could just keep hollowing out the American middle class and using our productivity to fund their agenda. That's what's been going on with the WHO, the WEF, the United Nations.
We're the ones on the hamster wheel?
We're the ones on the hamster wheel. We are George Jetson on the treadmill. Jane, get me off this crazy thing. Well, Trump is trying to get us off that crazy thing, and the media hates it, and so they're not reporting. I was earlier this week talking about Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth on 5 and 10 for Skywatch TV, and the reporting of the second Signalgate scandal, which has kind of come and gone without a blip.
Oh, I know.
Because Hegseth, he's got to have a pretty thick skin. Basically, just said, "Well, what do you expect from the media? This is the same media that lied about the RussiaGate hoax, about the this, that, and the other. And have they given back their Pulitzers for those? Because I don't think they have.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, which they haven't. So when I commented that it appears that, and the second Signalgate thing, Signal is that encrypted messaging app for social for mobile devices.
Right.
He apparently had another Signal group prior to his confirmation as Secretary of Defense, where he shared some information about an upcoming attack against Yemen, and his lawyer and his brother were involved in that. His wife as well. Not sure why his wife was involved in that chat, but again, it's encrypted. It's supposed to be secure. The fact that his brother and his lawyer were both employed to the Pentagon, so might have some need to know about this, wasn't reported by the media. I just said, okay, so it appears that this whole thing about the Signalgate scandal was targeting Hegseth because the Pentagon doesn't want him in there.
Right.
And somebody commented, well, you didn't talk about this, that, or the other. So I suppose you think everything the Trump administration does is wonderful. Like, no, that's not it at all. Frankly, I'd like to see Pam Bondi doing more inside the Department of Justice and less on Fox News.
Yep, I agree.
Would like to see Kristi Noem not looking for photo ops so much. I mean, that's, she's got this nickname now on social media, DHS Barbie. But if the corporate media hadn't been trying to sell us on the globalist agenda, the climate is falling, and Russia runs the Trump campaign, and the media or the experimental serum is safe and effective, be more inclined to buy into all this stuff. So when Trump is doing these things with these trade deals, we're not likely to see good reports on it.
Well, no, not from the mainstream media. It's another reason that I would encourage everyone to open an X account if you don't already have one, because you'll see all those stories there.
Yeah.
You'll see the stories of Pete Hegseth's, rebuttal to the accusations. You'll see a lot of the inside stuff and fascinating threads. Just I could spend hours on X, but I don't have hours to spend.
Yeah. It is interesting that you can. It's a good way to expose yourself to some of what the other side is thinking, to get a sense for what. Because you don't want to be, just as we can accuse others of being inside an echo chamber, we don't want to be in an echo chamber either, because...
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
There are also a number of accounts there that are open source intel.
Yeah.
One of them is OSINT Defender. There are a lot of them, OSINT Watch, and a whole bunch of them. And they'll just give you updates on stories that are breaking. And oftentimes you'll get information you're not going to get anywhere else, and then you can follow that story to see what's really going on. The economic system is shifting, and it's always interesting to watch it, because you have to remember Satan rules the world. Our Lord is actually the king, but for now he's allowing Satan to play out his hand. And Satan doesn't hold a good hand, but he's going to try to augment it as much as possible. And the spiritual warfare, as you're writing in your book, began a long, long time ago. So Peering into Darkness, PID Radio, that's why we talk about the news, but we try to tell you the things that are going on in the background. Now, I promised earlier, because I have to say it before I forget.
Yep.
I promised I would bring in Moderna.
I was just going to go back to that, just so we didn't forget.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. HHS has just announced that they are giving, and I can't remember the amount.
$176 million.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
It is to continue research in the mRNA platform, but this time the target is to create a solution, we'll call it, for H5N1, but in particular avian flu, period. My understanding, because I've been watching this for a long time, is the dream is to have something that will take care of all avian flus. So you go after either the hemagglutinin or the neuraminidase, the H or the N, in H5N1 or H3N8 or whatever. Then if you can do that, then theoretically, you've got a magic solution, the magic bullet, so to speak, that will cure all ills. It doesn't exist. And my comment on X when I shared it this morning was, can we please get away from using the mRNA platform and go back to tried and true methods that have worked? Vaccines historically haven't always been problematic. Yes, there have been times when SV40, for instance,
Right,
simian
virus 40, right.
was in the penicillin, I think. Not
Polio.
penicillin, but the polio vaccine.
Yeah.
In some batches. Not all of them.
And that led to cancer in
I
the
know that led to
recipients, right.
cancer. Exactly. I agree. In many cases, I prefer not to just say, blanket, we're just going to do this and fix the world.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist. But yeah, we're going to see as the avian flu outbreak continues and as H5N1 continues its incursion into other mammal species, that eventually, if it continues to mutate, there will be a form of that theoretically can infect human to human with greater transmissibility, easier. That day will probably come. But if it's not H5N1, it will be something eventually, because we're going to go back to the World Economic Forum and the reveal that climate change, which hasn't gone away, that whole push for that, we're going to get on our planes and travel all over the world until we convince you to stop getting on planes.
And while we're doing it, we're going to be spraying chemtrails out the back of our private jets.
Well, there's a bill here in Missouri to get rid of that.
Yeah.
It probably won't go anywhere, but thank you to those lawmakers. But I think eventually there will be something that will be the reason to bring about the big pandemic. If you look at the book of Revelation and those writers in Revelation chapter 6, you'll see that it's clear a pandemic is in there, a big old pandemic. An economic weaponry is in there. That's the rider on the black horse. The rider on the pale horse is pandemic. So these are old spiritual stratagems to take us over.
Yep. And they keep using those stratagems because we keep falling for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's surprising given the way people have awakened to the reality of the last round of mRNA serums.
Yeah.
That the government, especially under Robert F. Kennedy Jr., this may have been in the works for a while.
I think it has been in the works for a long time. I don't know how much control he has over HHH awards, but yeah, I'm betting that, and I also would bet that it's been announced now to tarnish his reputation.
Yeah, that could well be, because again, Big Pharma doesn't want, or Big Food, they don't want him in charge of HHS any more than the Pentagon or Department of Defense wants Pete Hegseth. So
RFK Jr. wants to remove all the dyes from our foods. He wants to get rid of seed oils. He wants to get us healthy again.
Yeah, he announced this past week that there are 8 toxic dyes that are petroleum-based that he will have phased out by the end of 2026.
Thank you, Bobby.
Yeah, why are we putting petroleum-based dyes in our food?
Good question, isn't it?
Yeah, well, so much for your Flamin' Hot Cheetos, sweetie.
Oh, no, not those. Oh. Can we just coat them in turmeric?
There you go.
I'd get orange fingers from that.
Or cinnamon. Yeah, there we go.
Ooh, cinnamon. Cinnamon, by the way, we promised that we were, and I know that we're running low on time. You had promised earlier that you were going to talk about the updates on your health.
Yeah.
And it's why we're drinking tea this morning. I love to drink tea anyway, and I often put cinnamon sticks in the teapot. And I put cinnamon sticks in your teapot this morning. Derek is drinking
Red
it's called
Zinger.
Red Zinger, and it has hibiscus flower in it, along with lemongrass and some other good inclusions that are all natural. And these are anti-inflammatory agents. So inflammation is probably one aspect of what's going on with your health.
Yeah. Last week, only did, I think, 1 or maybe 1.5 5 and 10. So you get maybe a 7 and 12. Because we had a couple of days of recording at Skywatch TV, but also because I had to drive up to Springfield twice. And in fact, that second time we drove up in the afternoon of the day before the test. One day was for blood work. There was blood that was drawn for a number of tests that were ordered by my primary care physician to try to determine what's going on. And then on Thursday morning last week, first thing in the morning was at the hospital there in Springfield for a spinal tap, lumbar puncture.
Which went very well.
It did. Yeah, of course, people were sending me notes of condolence before it even happened.
Well,
It's
it
like,
can have disastrous side effects, but
yeah,
yours went well.
It did. The nurse practitioner who did it was very good, and I'm not exaggerating when I say it was no worse than a blood draw.
Mm-hmm.
There was that pinch when they inject the lidocaine, which is the
anesthetic.
Anesthetic. Thank you. But then we got to talking about various things, and I was talking about our trip to Israel in October, and she was saying that she and her husband had always wanted to go there. It's a bucket list item. So, but as we got to talking about the various things we've seen and how impactful it's been for us, next thing I know, she's saying, "Okay, we're done." Oh, okay.
I know you were in there maybe 40 minutes.
40 minutes at most.
I had just gotten something to drink out of the machine. When you came out, I thought,
my hands are full. Yeah. So, and thankfully, I didn't suffer any discomfort after the fact, which was surprising. But they said, okay, next 12 hours at least, stay as flat on your back as you can.
And you did.
Make sure you're well hydrated, which I did. So no headache, no discomfort in my back afterwards. It really was no worse than having blood drawn.
And you were very careful about, prior to that, you drank a lot of fluids.
Yes.
Prior to.
Made sure I was well hydrated going in.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, the results point to an autoimmune disorder of some sort. Sjogren's tested negative. There were
But
some.
some of the other numbers might point in that direction.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to tell. So
It's not Lyme disease. All of those antibodies came
definitely
back
was
negative. There was a high protein count in my cerebrospinal fluid, which again suggests an autoimmune disorder of some kind. Now, there was an MRI done previously which didn't show any lesions in my brain, no tumor or anything like that.
thank you, Jesus.
Yeah, amen to that. And typically multiple sclerosis will show some kind of a lesion up there, but not always. So
more testing or possibly more
yeah,
consults. Or,
but MS usually comes on pretty quickly, and my symptoms, looking back, started about 2 years ago.
no, it doesn't always come on quickly.
Well, okay.
But the bottom line is we don't know exactly what the diagnosis is, but here's the thing. Getting a diagnosis makes you feel like you have more power over it.
Right, and they did point to something called CIDP, which is chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy. My
Or
symptoms,
polyradiculopathy.
yeah, which, my symptoms are mainly consistent with it, although a lot of people with CIDP or have been diagnosed with it, it's a collection of symptoms.
It is.
They don't
just
know what
like,
the cause is.
Exactly. It's often how these things are.
Right.
An example is fibromyalgia syndrome.
Yeah.
Meibomian gland dysfunction.
Yeah.
We don't know, which is what I've been going through. But I also had a bunch of blood drawn, and it came back possible Sjogren's. So I'm going to see a rheumatologist soon.
Yeah. Well, there's so there is that.
I know.
So we're moving in the right direction. The standard protocol for treating CIDP is, and this was in fact recommended by my primary care physician's office, the nurse practitioner there, suggested going to the ER because the neurology clinic for the health system that we're part of doesn't have any openings for 9 months.
Right.
So go to the ER and tell them this, and they'll get you started on steroids and intravenous immunoglobulin.
IVIG.
Yeah. Well, the IVIG treatments, from what I've read and heard from people who've had them, is that it's either 2 or 4 days, 2 hours a day, 4 hours a day, and it wipes you out like going through dialysis. So basically, lose a week of work and
pay a lot of money.
Pay a lot of money because these are not cheap.
No, thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and also very powerful steroids to suppress the inflammatory response caused by the autoimmune disorder.
Right.
Your body is attacking its own nerves.
Isn't it better just to drink a cup of tea?
Yes, it is. And got some other things. Our friend in India, the research chemist there, thank you, young man, has recommended something. I got started on that last night, called neem, which is an anti-inflammatory. Other anti-inflammatory supplements that Dr. Sams there at the Branson Healing Arts Center has suggested. So we're going to go that route rather than suppressing my immune system, because I saw my father go through something that he endured for the final 3-4 months of his life because his immune system had been suppressed. He was being treated for chronic leukemia, but also rheumatoid arthritis, which is autoimmune. And so his immune system was so suppressed that a virus that most of us, 80-90% of us, according to some estimates, have been exposed to, which is harmless, went active and caused a fatal lesion in his brain. So rather than opening my immune system up to, or my body up to everything, being immunocompromised just to get some relief, and I'd rather try the autoimmune, or rather the inflammatory, anti-inflammatories.
Right, go nutritional as much as possible.
So we'll go that route and see how that works.
Yeah.
That and prayer.
Well, that's just it. That is just it. You and I have talked about this a lot. And for whatever reason, the Lord has allowed this, and my suspicion, as I've told you, is at the very least, He's trying to slow you down. Derek, I want you to stay in your chair or on the couch or wherever it is you read. I want you to write, research, and report.
Yeah, and a little difficult to do when you're saying yes to every invitation, and and we're thankful because we're getting invitations now to speak, interview requests from podcasts and programs.
We turned down a number of conference invitations, and you've turned down a number of interview because you need the rest. You're sleeping 11 hours a night.
Yeah.
Pretty much every
Between
night.
9 and 11 a night. Right?
And you need that because your body is cranked up. Derek, if you've noticed on 5 and 10, you've lost some weight, and I'm doing my best to put it back on him. But healthy fats and good things like that.
Right.
So we want you to be as healthy as possible when we go to Israel.
Right. And we'll definitely...
And you can take your cane with you
Yes.
to be more secure, I may get Derek a little seat. It's a folding seat that you just... It's relatively light, easy to pack, and if we just are out somewhere and nowhere to sit down, no rocks or anything like that, here you go.
Yeah.
Derek gets to sit down.
There we go. Gilgal Rephaim. I've got a chair.
Derek says, "Where's my chair?" Sharon's sitting in it.
Oh. So,
but it'll work out.
Other than, I'm not in any pain or anything like that. I've got foot drop on both sides. My feet at this point basically are just hanging off my ankles. So I've got braces that lift up the fronts of my shoes when I walk so that I don't trip over my own toes, which was a danger even before I had foot drop. So
and when you're barefoot, you have to be really careful to lift your knees really high. But you're able to drive. You've gotten really good about using those quadriceps, your thigh muscles, to pull your knee up if you need to, and you're an absolutely safe driver. I let you drive all the time. The one time I didn't let you drive is when you were coming back from the lumbar, from the spinal tap,
So, and the cane is mainly just for balance, because when I'm walking, I can generally get by walking okay. It's when I stand still, because I don't have control over those muscles in my lower legs and feet, that I can't compensate. And I've got to shift my feet around, and that can be a little tricky. So anyway, but your prayers are very much appreciated, and
they really
I know that
are.
we've got some good. Please understand, we've got some very good naturopaths working on this.
We do.
Locally, Matthew Sams, Ralph Umbriaco, our friend in India, who is a research chemist whose specialty is looking for botanical and natural solutions to things that Western medicine will often use powerful narcotics to cure.
Well, exactly. We would rather use God's solutions, and they're there. God's solutions are there. He put a pharmacy all around us.
Yeah, and we carry carry it with us whenever we travel.
Well, yeah, we do have it.
Yeah, lots
Yeah,
of.
I meant in nature, but yeah,
Oh,
you and
yes,
I have
yes.
a big
Well, we can't
pharmacy
carry
in
the
our
trees with
bathroom.
us very easily, so we put it in
We-
capsule form.
Capsule form, yeah.
So,
But if you, for instance, I've not really done a whole lot of cooking or baking with turmeric. So if you have recipes that you want to share with me on Facebook, you can share that through Messenger. I would really appreciate that. Or you can comment on my, anything that I put out there. In fact, comment to this when we share the video for this.
if you're
the video, it's just
following
audio
us
with
on
too.
YouTube Music, then please add this in the comments below.
Yeah.
And this will be a journey, but it's again just the thought of having to endure the side effects of the steroids.
I know.
The cost of the treatment. Look, if the IVIG, if the intravenous treatment is like the last resort, all right, we'll find a way to make that happen. But it's the side effects of the steroids. I just am not eager, especially after having seen how those affected my dad at the end of his life. And thankfully, he was prepared to meet the Lord, and he knew where he was going, and that made things a lot easier.
And that's what really matters in the end.
Yes.
What is your final destination? You and I, look, we don't want to spend eternity in these bodies. So we're looking forward to the bodies that the Lord is going to provide us, brand new ones, when we transition. We walk through that door.
Yep.
That is our goal.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, do the best we can with the life He's given us.
Yeah. This corruptible body will
Put on incorruptible.
Yeah, because we cannot inherit the kingdom until we become until we put on incorruptibility.
Amen to that. And we know that many of you out there listening, you're dealing with your own issues.
Yeah.
You may be dealing with health issues or something else that's happening to a loved one, or look, we're all struggling in some way. And each one of us, if you feel alone, Derek and I have each other, but some of you live alone and maybe don't have family around you. But just remember this, our shepherd is there with you.
Yeah.
You are not alone. You may be the only human in your house, but you're not the only person in your house. The Lord is with you.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, that was a wonderful message that you gave on your Armored Sheep podcast this past Wednesday. If you don't subscribe to Sharon's Armored Sheep program, you really should. And you can access it at YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, or, of course, through our app, which we encourage you to get at gilberthouse.org/app.
Yeah, we didn't even mention the app up at the top. Should
Yeah.
have, but yeah, it's got a wonderful area where you can, talk to each other, pray for one another.
Yes. That area of the messaging section, the groups function, is the most active section on the app. In fact, it's the most active app on my iPhone, which is the way it should be. We
Yep.
are praying for one another, and again, your prayers very much appreciated.
So much. And by the way, tomorrow morning we're going to be back having Gilbert House Fellowship. Unless this is the last Sunday, though, isn't it?
It is the last
So
Sunday of the
maybe
month, so we
Enoch.
will be in the book of 1 Enoch again.
Yeah.
So talking more about the War of the Watchers.
And if you have a prayer request and you're in the app, or if you have a question, we try to answer questions that are asked in the app on our, either in PID Radio or Gilbert House Fellowship. And I may start answering them on the Armored Sheep as well.
That's a good idea.
It's just easier to answer vocally instead of typing, especially for me. If you want to see the hilarity of some of my typos when I try to type these days, I might just share that with you. And some of the suggestions of the autocorrect are hilarious too.
Yeah. So join us tomorrow morning for Gilbert House Fellowship. Again, my podcast, A View from the Bunker, scaling it back for the time being to just the monthly Iron and Myth programs, as, again, just trying to conserve my energy. But until tomorrow then, I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert. And for grace and glory that I bet that they won out of that crate right about now, we love you guys. Bye-bye, everybody.
PID Radio is produced by Gilbert House and released under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. Follow us online, Twitter @PID Radio, or the PID Radio page at Facebook. Join us each week for our online Bible study, the Gilbert House Fellowship, online at gilberthouse.org.